I am already forgetting how to film. Hello, I am back. It's been well over a year since I've filmed or posted literally anything. So if for some reason you are still here, you probably forgot you were still subscribed to me and are surprised to see my face again. So greetings. So what sparked this change? Why am I doing it again? At the end of the day, it comes down to two different things. One, I'm just gonna be completely honest, it's quarantine. I need something to do with my free time, especially since I can't vent to any of my friends about my books anymore. So yet again, I am choosing to do it here instead, so yep. And number two, I have just genuinely missed BookTube. At the time when I had just stopped filming videos and all that sort of stuff, I had also just stopped watching YouTube for a really, really long time, and I really don't know why. I just think that in that point in my life, looking back, I wasn't really in the best mental state, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't even because of BookTube, I was just unhappy with myself in general, but after obviously a long time thinking about it and several mental crises along the way, I feel good about myself again. And in BookTube's eyes, what better way to celebrate that than with a book haul? So that is exactly what I did. So my birthday actually was a little over a month ago, and because of that, I have acquired quite a few more new books, both from my parents, one of my best friends who sent a couple books to me as well, and just other books that I bought for myself because I was interested and I just really wanted to read them in these next few months of summer vacation. Well, vacation. So what better way to get back onto BookTube than to share these with you guys? Or whoever's left, really. I'm just gonna stop rambling because this is already taking way too long and you guys just came here for some books, so I'm just gonna show you those now. So I've split these books off into three separate categories according to who gave them to me, and so I'm gonna start with the books that my parents got me, and this first one is honestly one that I think I'm the most excited about just because of how popular it is and how interesting it sounds. And that's the box set of A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. No, I have not read these. No, we're not going to talk about it. To be honest, I don't know too much about these books, only that it's set in a world with 4 parallel Londons, and 3 out of the 4 of them have magic, and there are these special people that can travel between the 4 Londons. And honestly, that's really all the information I need to know, so we're just gonna move on. These next two are books that I have actually already read, but they were my absolute favorite books, or one of my favorite books of 2019 in general, so I had to have them for myself because I know I'm just gonna reread these over and over again. And that is Orange Volume 1 and 2 by Ichigo Takano. These two books were literally the first manga I had ever read in my entire life, and I could not have asked for a better first experience because these two were so amazing. It basically follows the story of this girl who one day gets a letter from herself from the future, and it basically tells her that one of her new friends that has just transferred to school that year is going to end up committing suicide. And so it basically follows her and her friends meeting this boy and becoming friends with him and sharing so many experiences together, and it both warms and breaks my heart on countless occasions, and I'm so happy to have these. These next two I don't think anyone has ever heard of before, or at least hardly anyone here has ever heard of them before, and the first one I'm talking about is the Magnum Opus by Christopher and Christine Cazellos. This book is actually based on a short film that these people made called The Maker, which is basically this magical creature that basically spends its entire life creating the next maker. And upon doing that, if they can do that within a certain time limit, then they are whisked away into this magical other universe to join the rest of the makers, while the one it has created is left to stay behind and create the next maker again, and so the cycle keeps going on. And what happens in this book is one of the makers fails to complete this task and basically has to go on this journey to try to fix his mistake, and that's really all I need to know. The other one that probably no one on BookTube has ever heard before is Dawn of Davna by Kirkpatrick Miller. I just got this because the author of this book is my violin teacher, and that's really all anyone needed to know before my parents got this for me, because they knew I'd be interested, and they were correct. The last one that my parents got me isn't necessarily a book, or it is a book, just not sort of like the other ones that people just read front to back, and that is Ruby, the Official Companion. They just got this for me because I love Ruby, and this book basically details all of the production and stuff that goes into the characters and designing and fights and all that sort of stuff, and it's just a really neat thing to have, so I'm happy with it. The next two books I'm going to talk about are ones that my best friend gifted to me for my birthday, and the first one is The Terrible Thing That Happened to Barnaby Brocket by Oliver Jeffers. I think the cute little handwritten synopsis on the back explains it better than I ever could, so I'm just going to read that. There's nothing unusual about the Brockets. Boring, respectable, and proud of it. They turn up their noses at anyone strange or different. But from the moment Barnaby Brocket comes into the world, he defies the laws of gravity and floats. Desperate to please his parents, Barnaby does his best to keep both feet on the ground, but he just can't do it. One faithful day, the Brockets decide enough is enough. They never asked for a weird, abnormal, floating child. Barnaby has to go. Betrayed, frightened, and alone, Barnaby floats into the path of a very special hot air balloon, and so begins a magical journey all around the world. This sounds cute, this sounds whimsical, and I'm very excited to get to it. The other book she got me is one that I know literally nothing about, and that's Monsters, A Love Story by Liz Kay. What the inside of this is telling me is that there's a poet and also this A-list Hollywood star that falls in love with this poet, and they're basically just having an affair, I guess. But I'm still curious to try it out anyways because she gave it to me, so why not? This last section is going to be books that I bought for myself for my birthday, and you are probably going to recognize basically all of these titles except for the first one I'm showing you, which is Ruby After the Fall by Ec Meijer. Yes, another Ruby book. I am greatly obsessed. But this follows the story of one of my personal favorite teams, Team Coffee, after the events of Ruby Volume 3, and the second book comes out late next month, so I gotta get on to this one. But after that, the next one I got is The Female of the Species by Mindy Mcginnis, a very beloved book on BookTube. But from what I'm gathering from the back, again, it seems like it follows the story of this girl whose older sister was murdered 3 years ago, and she might be trying to get revenge, and I've also heard there are some trigger warnings for abuse or one of those topics in here, so I'm a little bit cautious going into it, but it still seems super interesting. This next one I feel is actually a little bit polarizing on BookTube, and it's They Both Die at the End by Adam Silveira, but it's basically set in a world where around 24 hours before you're supposed to die, you receive a call saying you're going to die that day. And the two characters in this book meet each other on this app called like Last Friend or something like that, and they basically just get to spend their last day together. And I personally think the concept of this book sounds pretty interesting, so we'll see how it's handled then. This next one I know basically nothing about, but I've heard Cindy from Read with Cindy compliment it a couple times on her channel, and that's To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. Again, all I know is that this is a standalone YA fantasy following sirens to some extent, so yeah. Moving on. This next one, again, is a recommendation from a booktuber I watch a lot, Haley in Bookland, and that is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. I know none of these authors' names, what the hell. But I know this is a pretty well-written magical realism that follows a girl who was born with wings. And Haley in Bookland talks about it a lot, so that's really all the convincing I need to read this. These next two books are contemporaries that are kind of in the same series, I guess, but I've only read one of them and I'm very intrigued to pick up the other, and that's Love and Gelato and Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welsh. I read Love and Luck pretty early on last year, and it was a buddy read with Anne from By the Book, and I flew through this in one day. It was absolutely beautiful. The setting was gorgeous. The characters were really likable, and some of the characters mentioned in here actually have their own book in Love and Gelato, which was actually published first, so I should have read this one first, but now I have it, so I can do that now. As for these last two books that I'm going to talk about, one of them I actually tried reading early on in April of last year, and I really enjoyed the first bit of it, and I have no idea why I never finished it, but since I have both of the books in the series now, I feel like I can do that. And that is Kings of the Wild and Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. This first book basically follows the story of a band who has essentially been disbanded for a while. They used to be really legendary warriors, but now they've all grown older and gone on separate paths. But when one of the band members' daughters go missing, they have to reform and go get her. And when first reading this, I really enjoyed the writing style of it. I thought it was very witty, very funny, and also oddly descriptive at the same time. Like, I really thought I got a feel for the few characters that I read about in here. So I'm very eager to retry this one and hopefully move on to the second one as soon as possible because I own both of them now. So that's basically it for this book haul. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know with like libraries closed and stuff, with everything going on, a lot of people have been buying more books for themselves and therefore have been posting book hauls and stuff like that, so hopefully you guys are not sick of those yet. But that's it for me. Hopefully I can see you guys soon again. Bye!